Benny, Republicans picked up at least 5 seats. They could win several more. 2 big wins in Florida. We also talked with Dr. Kelly Ward earlier about Arizona. We got into some granular information. I kind of let her flood the zone with all these local races that Republicans won. When you think about this situation right now, Benny, are you demoralized in any way? Do you see anything to be sad about at this point? Because a lot of people, I think, maybe are prematurely upset about the outcome of the election here.
That's exactly right. So it really is a difference in entire political universes of the left and the right, right? So as a conservative, the government typically is not your God. It's not catastrophic if you lose a seat here or a seat there. Elections come and go. The government are the mechanisms to represent us, but they don't represent our lives, our livelihoods, our faiths. They don't represent ultimate truth. And so the people that we vest to the government, we understand that these things ebb and flow. And so that's why you don't see online conservatives rending their garments and screaming at the sun, crying the way that that the left did in 2016, that spawned millions and millions of memes, 4 solid great years of memes, which is my specialty. Yes. You don't see that with conservatives because our entire worldview isn't broken by one election or another. It is far more about a long-term push for the virtues that we stand for as conservatives, and we see that in incremental steps, particularly in carving up a number of seats, winning, I think, every single close seat in the House thus far. There are still races to come. Holding on to the Senate. We'll see what happens in the Georgia runoffs. And right now, frankly, a razor-thin, disputed within 1% in 5 swing states presidential race. And so in a world where there was supposed to be a blue wave and where there was absolutely no hope for conservatives are actually smiling and whistling Dixie with a number of positive results.
Yeah, Kristen, when you look at this election, in some ways you can make the case as the creation of socialism, the far left agenda here. And on the other hand, you still hear kind of the lip service being thrown out by Joe Biden. I hear 2 things right on the outset that he's planning on already. Number 1, forming a White House office on climate change. I don't think anybody voted for that. Number 2, he wants to form a commission to study something, that being the pandemic and the response. And if you look at any of his position papers on the pandemic response, not a lot of difference between what he wants to do and what President Trump actually did here. So these are this is another example of the status quo, if Joe Biden does win.
No, you're exactly right. What we saw this week was actually Americans don't want the far left Democrat agenda, in spite of an overwhelmingly left-wing media, in spite of the polls telling us that the Democrats would have a huge blowout win down ballot, in spite of big tech censoring legitimate news stories that made Joe Biden look bad. We actually saw that Americans rejected Democrats. Republicans made unexpected gains in the House. We're keeping the Senate. There's a lot to celebrate here. And I would piggyback off of Benny by saying that leftists tend to invest far too much in national politics and not be nearly invested enough in their own families or in their communities. And that's why we're seeing these hilariously pathetic videos of leftists filming themselves dancing in the streets over, Joe Biden winning the presidency, when in fact, we saw repudiation of their far left ideology. And the real change does happen on the state and community level. I'm with Young Americans for Liberty. It's a great organization, and we helped secure 116 wins down ballot with conservative, liberty-friendly candidates. This is where the change happens. Yep. And I am optimistic about the future because the left really did not win big this week, and they vastly underperformed based on what the polls were telling us they would. Yeah, you got to have the farm team, and that's where it all starts in these down ballot races that are so important. Benny, let's take a look at something Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez tweeted out. She's kind of on the defense right now against the middle of her party. There are folks running around on TV blaming progressivism for Dem underperformance. She's blaming it, Benny, on poor digital performance, not because of socialism or because of threats to end fracking. AOC says it's all just because these Democrats ran poor digital campaigns. What do you think about that? And that's all we need to hear, right?
Cool. You're laughing. Yes, that's awesome. I'll use that actually, and I'll use that in my marriage, right? When my wife and I are arguing. Yes. Yes, actually, honey, you should have ran a better digital argument.
Yes. I'm going to try that one too. Yeah. Honey.
So where does this stem from, right? So this stems from a catastrophic call with the DCCC, where members of the Democratic Party were in chaos, peril. They were screaming at each other. Centrist Democrats were yelling about defund the police, socialism. They were getting slaughtered in their races. Many of them lost their races. Again, every close or toss-up race was won by Republicans. This is catastrophic for someone like AOC. Yeah. And because AOC runs in a, as Nancy Pelosi said, a glass of water with a D on it would win in AOC's district, she has pushed the entire party to such an extreme that Democrats are seeing just catastrophic results all the way down the ballot. As Kristen was talking about, they have not cared about their community. They do not care about the world around them. And much, as you can see in the difference in these results and the way that people are responding, for conservatives, the government isn't God. The government isn't God, and there isn't we don't expect the government to solve all of our problems or to alleviate any issues in our lives. And when people do or don't win, it doesn't cause like a catastrophe for us, right? We're not reduced to a melting.
The fight continues. We'll keep battling. The ideals are the same. The message is the same. Smaller government, more personal freedom. That's all we're asking for. That hope is still alive. Guys, great to see you. Benny, Kristen, we'll see you again soon.